You're listening to the Appleton REIA podcast, a podcast dedicated to understanding the latest tips, tricks, and techniques to be successful in today's market of real estate investing. Appleton REIA podcast. Get ready. Here's the next episode. Hello once again, people. We are the Appleton REIA podcast. My name is Dan Alborn, and along for the ride once again, Jackie Conkle.
Hello.
All right, we're flipped the calendar, Jackie. We're in a new year and new challenges, but yet the insanity of real estate is still full force.
And I would like to add new opportunities as well. I mean, new challenges always come with new opportunities, and sometimes it's just the way we look at it, right? I mean,
absolutely.
A little bit of mindset shift and look for the silver lining on every cloud you can find and take it into the year.
And we'll jump into the topic here momentarily, but this podcast really is dedicated to helping you, the investor, right? Whether you're brand new or even seasoned, tips, tricks, and techniques.
Do not say that.
I got to go find my lips. I don't know. I must have left them at home today. But opportunities for you to improve your business and overall life, because Appleton REIA is a life and air chapter, and we're all about celebrating our life and using our building our business to celebrate and serve our life. I'll get this right.
Got that?
I think so.
We got that.
I think so. I need another cup of coffee. Get it brewing. But what we're going to talk about today is, the reality with real estate is you can survive in any market, right?
You really
Whether
can.
it's a buyer's market or a seller's market, the key is know what market you're in, right?
Absolutely. I mean, as we were talking earlier, even in a declining market, you can still survive in your business. It's just a little bit about how and when to pivot.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So as we sit here today, and it is January 2022, and I think our market is not much different than most markets out there, no matter where you're listening to this, is the real estate market is still very, very hot. And we've seen this in our market for probably the last 3 years. Some markets a little bit longer. But, there will come a point in time in which the markets will change. There's indicators that we see that perhaps as the year wanes, things could soften a bit. But we're talking about as of today what we know. You don't have a crystal ball. I don't. We have to just understand how can we survive, and not only survive, but thrive in the market that we're sitting in right now, which is really an insane market, Yeah. Inventory's low.
Inventory's still low. I mean, we're not in the market where we were even 6 months ago, where a house hits the market and you get 20 offers in the first 2 hours and you sell the house for $40,000 more than it's worth. We're not getting that right now.
Right.
So we are starting to see that part of it be done. However, prices are still strong. They're not going backwards. Inventory is still low, so if you have something to sell, you still have a really good shot. You're just not going to sell it for more than it's worth.
Right.
But it's still super strong. Inventory is still low. But again, that still poses a challenge while inventory is low, is the acquisition of properties, right?
100%.
So we're still in that where it is maybe a little tougher to get a property and get it at a good deal. And especially since we don't have that crystal ball.
Right.
And we don't really know if we acquire a property today and we're not ready to sell it for, 3 to 4, maybe 6 months, like what will that market look like?
Sure.
So we still have to be conservative in our numbers. We can't
Absolutely.
bet on it going up more than what our ARV today shows it'll be.
And we stress all the time, like, you make your money when you buy the property, right?
Yes.
Buy it right. It will serve you, in most cases in these situations. And, we're in the Midwest, so we have a pretty tempered market that doesn't have too many volatile swings.
True.
That may not be the case if you're in California. Obviously or in Florida.
The East and West Coast.
Yeah, the coast, right? They have a little bit more volatility in their market swings. But nonetheless, you buy it right on the front end. You can't go wrong on the back end.
I say use today's ARV. Don't add a pad to it, hoping it appreciates in 6 months. Although that has been happening, I don't know that that's necessarily going to continue. I think prices are starting to just sort of stay and flatten out a little bit, based on what we're seeing here in our market. But I don't see any indicators that they're going to go backwards. So if you use today's ARV, I believe you'd be safe.
Yep, I would agree.
But we still have to look at, what are all the things that we can do to be successful in a market like this?
Well, right. And the reality is, and in most markets, there are more people investing in real estate.
Yeah.
When a market's hot and people see that's where you can make some money, there is a perception, and maybe in some real situations, an oversaturation of investors.
Yeah.
And sometimes could maybe give you the false sense of like there are no opportunities, that there's too many people in this space, right?
And I think not only the new investors or the potential new investors just looking at coming into the market feel that way. But also some of our seasoned investors have that same concern, like, oh my gosh, there's so many people doing what we do. And inventory is low and it's tougher to get a deal. Like, is there even any opportunity left? Like, is it saturated? Like, that's been a question we've received this week a little bit from a few different people, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think, that is a valid concern. And maybe in some markets it is oversaturated. I mean, we were just talking before, Jackie, in our own personal market, we're in a stable but also growing market. We see, property lines moving and cities getting bigger and the traffic patterns increasing in our own market, which leads us to believe there's opportunity, right? People need housing. People need affordable housing. So there's always going to be a need for investors like us to help either repair homes, bring them up to be new homes, or if you're going to get into the new construction, if that's your gig, there's opportunities there. You have to sometimes look for those opportunities, but also with some of the marketing that you do, that's where you have to really look at what's effective. And either you double down on some of those things or look to do some things maybe you haven't done in the past.
Right.
Maybe some things what's the saying you always say, Jackie? It works so well.
You quit doing it.
You quit doing it, right?
Yeah, and sometimes you just got to be willing to pivot,
Right.
But I mean, even looking at the rental market, right? I mean, because affordable housing is really difficult to find. I mean, it's funny, yesterday when you said, well, there's no houses for $100,000 or less that are worth living in, and that was kind of a funny and sad at the same time thing. But that 150 below, I mean, so here's the thing, right? We're still seeing all these subdivisions being built up,
right?
And a lot of those people, so everybody's moving up, right? And so those older areas, maybe the people don't want to do their own renovations, they don't want to get the house market ready, they're just excited to move into the new place. Those are where we want to acquire, and we could turn those into rentals, or we could turn those into affordable housing for the next generation that's looking to be a homeowner. I
mean, if you really want to get a real actionable tip right now, I think Jackie just hit on it. Go into your market, make a heat map of like property values. Find the lower end. Oh, we got dogs barking. That's all right. That's part of the natural ability of podcasting from home. So, but really, it is taking that heat map and finding those properties that sit lower on the scale. And then I would aggressively market and target those areas. Because to Jackie's point, there is a need for affordable housing, right? So let's say you pick up something that's, the retail value in our market right now is around $180,000 for, let's say, the average retail, right? So $180,000 to $200,000. Your market might be different. So find the stuff that's below that. You can still buy that. The market, the strategy is pretty much the same. You might actually get some sweetheart deals in some of those properties, because they're not maybe quote unquote in the desirable area where everyone wants to move up to, but people need to live. People need rentals.
They do, and the rents are crazy right now.
Absolutely, they are.
Which is great for us, as investors and landlords. But at the same point, if you have the opportunity to provide a clean, safe home at a reasonable rent, you're going to fill that sucker like this 100%. Because there's just. And that's the thing, right? Like, we can say, oh, everything's saturated, but maybe you just look and say, how can I play in this market?
Absolutely.
Where do I need to pivot? What marketing do I need to change? Maybe I need to do some of the things that everybody else isn't willing to do right now to pick up those sweetheart deals. If you're still sitting around waiting for something to hit the MLS that's going to cash flow real nice for you, you might be staring at your screen for a while.
For sure, for sure. And I mean, the thing is, you have to find out what other people are doing, and sometimes there's nothing wrong doing some of those things too. There's tried and true. I mean, I talk to investors all across the nation, and the three things that consistently work for them is direct mail, SEO, which is another big thing that people are seeing good activity on, and also dealing with calling.
Just calling them.
Right.
Yeah.
So those are the three tried and true methods that, even though, texting has kind of come on and voicemail drops and some of that stuff now is becoming litigated, I should say, that you may not want to use those platforms because they're being shut down. But in reality, those other things have always worked.
They really have. And, again, and Dan and I were talking about this earlier, but the other thing is, there could be a lot of investors in your marketplace, but any one investor can only take on so much at one time.
Right.
I mean, our banks, our lenders are only going to allow us to purchase so many before they put the brakes on it. Your HELOC only gives you so much opportunity for extra money for down payments and things like that, unless you're just full of cash on your own. as far as projects, as far as somebody taking on projects, you can only do what your team can handle.
100%.
So you think about it, it's not like, just because there's so many investors that they can all just soak up every single deal. Right. Otherwise, nobody would ever get a real estate license because there's, a gazillion realtors and they say, oh, there's no room for another realtor. There's always room somehow.
Correct.
The same with, the next gas station that goes up or the next insurance agent that comes on board. They all get business. It's a matter of how busy do you get to get your business.
Right.
If you think it's just going to come to you and you're going to sit there, then you're going to fail.
Right. Absolutely.
Just get out and do the thing.
Absolutely. So if you can find your little niche in what you want to get after, right, and then do it very well,
yes,
you can actually make your own market within a very, what would be considered an oversaturated market. Right.
And at the very end of the day, if it is a declining market and you're seeing your rush hour traffic, instead of getting busier, it's starting to slow and people aren't moving to your area anymore and companies are shutting down and there's no jobs. These are all opposite of what's happening in our market, by the way. And you're starting to see that market decline. In the world we live in today, virtual investing is just not that hard.
Absolutely. I mean, there's tools and tips and just simple internet searches you can see year over year. You could even, the census just came out a few years ago, right? You could actually see what areas are increasing in population. Guess what? That may be a good market to get into, right? Or if you see a big company, let's say Amazon decides to build a new distribution center somewhere, and it's going to add, 1,000 jobs to an area, that's going to not only add that, but then there's going to be other bits. So there's things that indicators that if you really wanted to look to find what market should I invest in, there may be one super close to where you live today.
Yes.
You just haven't really looked for it, right?
And there's, teachings and programs and people in place. There's technology, there's apps, there's all kinds of stuff in place to help you be successful outside of your own back door.
100%. And the two key pieces that I see with people that are successful with virtual is, to your point, Jackie, they have all the systems, right? Because you have to be able to systematize a lot of things. But having key people who are boots on the ground.
Right.
It can't be 100% virtual. You have to at least have some people in market that can help support you to some level. So if you
but most of the upfront can happen without them.
100%.
You don't bring them in until you know.
Correct.
Yeah.
I mean, you can do all the marketing virtually, take the phone calls virtually, and then once you finally get a property, I mean, you literally could go on like Facebook or Craigslist or a local place that you just need general labor for people to take a picture of a property or whatever. I mean, it's the execution of it and doing it consistently. But once you have a property under contract, everything else at that point in time is virtual because you can get in these groups, real estate meetup groups. You could find at the local REIA, right, and say, how do I promote my property in front of your club? What type of portals do you use? Reach out to the club owner. Most of those guys are more than happy if you have a valid deal. Absolutely. They want you to share it in front of their members. That brings value to the members, right? Heck, the club owner might even buy it, right? I mean, if you got a deal, you got a deal. So that is a huge opportunity, and I think it's becoming something that's a little bit more sexy in today's world, specifically with all the COVID crap that's going on right now, and people maybe not wanting to get out. You can just do it from the comfort of your own home, and you can make a viable business doing exactly that.
100%. I mean, in the couple of out-of-state deals that I did, I just had the homeowner walk me through on FaceTime.
Yeah.
They walked me through on FaceTime, and they, they walk me through the property and kind of tell me about it. And then if I saw something, I'm like, oh, can you go over there and like kind of just zoom in on that and show me. And the whole thing is I can get a good idea at that point of numbers, and they, it's like, dude, be honest with me, tell me what's going on with the property. If you were to keep it, what are the things that need repair? And they're pretty, I found that people are pretty honest. And the whole point is like, what I'm going to do is if we come to an agreement, we're going to walk through and I'm going to come up with numbers. I'm going to make you an offer if it works. Now I'm sending my boots on the ground in, and they're going to verify 100%. That you didn't like not show me, the crack in the foundation or whatever. And so they're really upfront and honest, and you can do out of state, you can do virtual deals 100%. That way. It really, it's easy with the technology we have today.
It really is. It sometimes we overcomplicate how easy that really is, and then it's just systematically repeating the process over and over and over, and you can have yourself a very good business without even being in market. So super exciting. So that's a way that if you are in that declining market, like Jackie said, there's opportunity. It's how you survive. Maybe it's not your market, it's someone else's market, right?
You still got to learn the market, right? You got to learn the values and whatever. I say the most valuable person you can find in an outside market is a quality real estate agent. If you can get that realtor who kind of understands a little bit of everything, and maybe it is reaching out to the REIA and saying, who is investor friendly, who understands things, because they know the contractors. You know what I mean? And they'll kind of be almost your project manager.
Right.
If you find the right realtor, they'll kind of just like manage everything for you because they know they're going to get that listing at the end.
Absolutely.
And, you might even throw them an extra bone just to kind of make sure that everything's on point. Or they can introduce you to a GC.
Yeah.
That's quality in the area that you can trust. And referrals are way better than going online and finding
absolutely.
somebody. And we know that locally as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that realtor's kind of going to be your clincher of, that person that you still want to trust your own numbers. You want them to send you comps and give you stuff just like locally. But you still want to back that up with your own research and make sure you're not being fluffed. But I'm telling you, it's really something that all of us can do if we needed to or wanted to. We can go outside of our own backyard.
Absolutely. And the other element of this too is if you're a traditional investor and you're looking just to do some things different. I mean, another thing right now is the short-term rental game, right? Where a lot of people are positioning themselves to address needs of temporary housing. Like someone had a fire in their home and they need 3 months to stay, or there's a traveling nurse, or perhaps you live near an area where there's events.
Yeah.
We just happen to live in Wisconsin. There's a football team that there's not enough homes for people to stay if they want to come watch the game. So if you're in markets like that where there's opportunities, and most markets, believe it or not, there are, you just have to find them. That can be a phenomenal opportunity to find a property that could be a huge cash flow for you if you buy it right.
If you buy it right and you figure out the management, because it can also be a hair puller, right? But if you want to learn a whole new side of real estate, it's very fruitful.
Yep.
But again, just learning how and when to pivot and what fits your vision and what fits your amount of time you want to put into your business, or do you want to hold or do you want to wholesale or flip? What. And holding, I mean, rents are high, but if you want it to be higher, you can do the short-term stuff. I mean, that's what we're doing. And
absolutely.
It's a little bit more involved, but it's more involved for more pay, right? So
risk reward, right?
Yeah, risk and reward, exactly. But looking whether you're pivoting your market or your marketing, or you're pivoting your own personal where you're looking or what you're looking for, your own parameters or your exit strategies. I mean, it's just really, there's so much opportunity now that when people are worried about the saturation of investors, it's a mindset thing. It's a limiting belief. And there's so much. It's actually a good thing to be in the position we're in right now. Well,
and think about this. I mean, to push past that, it all comes back to something that if you've listened to any of our podcasts, we probably talk about this one topic more than anything else. It's what's your why? Yep. Why are you in real estate investing? If it's just to get a paycheck, you're not going to survive in this business, right? Mm-hmm. But if you really have a desire to allow this to be the vehicle to serve your family, to build a business, to serve your community, you're going to be able to find opportunities because your mindset's different, right, Jackie? You're not thinking it as a limiting. Yeah, there's a lot more people in the space today than there were 3-5 years ago. That's a true statement in our world. But that doesn't mean we can't be equally as successful and more. We just had to try to find the other opportunities. We pivot our businesses. We pivot our marketing. We maybe get more aggressive with some of our marketing. There's opportunities abound.
I would say if we really looked at it and set our mind in the right position, there are more investors in our market, but our market also grew, and our market became more accustomed to investors.
I would agree.
Where in the beginning, when we were, getting this stuff off the ground here, people were very apprehensive about that cash buyer. Like, I heard about, I don't think that's safe. Like, now they're like, oh yeah, and my brother and my cousin both sold their house that way. It's nothing. Like, it's a very accepted, so we've gotten through that threshold. So there's a lot of benefits to where we are today as well. So always just looking at the negative doesn't really serve anybody.
No. So, I mean, like I said, at some point in time, this market will change, right?
It will.
At least, Jackie, you even talked a little bit about it, that we're not seeing some of the true nuclear side of things we were seeing about 6 to 8 months ago. But it's still a solid market, and understanding what market you're in, you then make those pivots accordingly, and your acquisition strategy changes as well. So, nonetheless, that's all right.
Siri is listening to us.
I know, right?
She doesn't know how to
Siri
respond
wants to be on this podcast. It's funny, the other day I was like, and I know they do this in the TV commercials for sure, like you're watching a commercial and it's like, hey Google, and then it says on the commercial and all of a sudden Google starts playing the song that they said on TV. It's like, they do that intentionally. But
that's crazy.
What's the real world? See, look,
I know,
see
AI
my phone
is everywhere.
My Google went off and it said, sorry, I'm not sure you were talking to me. No, I was not talking to you.
We weren't talking to my watch either.
I was not talking to you, technology.
See, what we're saying is there's so much technology out there that there is no excuse to not be successful.
Right.
I don't care if you're in your backyard or in another market.
Yeah.
I mean, look at all this crap we have all around us right now that's trying to help us.
Yeah.
Right? Google can't help you, and Siri doesn't understand. So, but if we told them exactly what we needed, they probably would point us to a website that would give us exactly what we needed. It is crazy.
It is crazy. It is crazy. But here's the deal, guys. What I challenge you to do is if you're in that spot where you're just feeling overwhelmed, find your local club. Really find your local real estate investor club. Surround yourself with like-minded investors. Network with them. Talk with them. Ask great questions. Most people at these clubs are willing to share, give, be open and honest. I know that's the case at our club at the Appleton REIA. But there's so much value in just going to those meetings and talking to people and sticking around after the meeting, right? Just hanging out. Just sometimes just being a fly on the wall and listening to conversations, you can almost through osmosis gain some knowledge, right?
It's all about who you hang around, Dan.
100%. 100%.
Yep.
And with our club specifically at the Appleton REIA, I mean, there's a lot of benefits of being a member. You get phenomenal discounts. I mean, last month's meeting, we had a great speaker that talked about how we can organize our business and prevent ourselves from being in some real issues later. So, I mean, there's so many great vendors at the Appleton REIA nationally and locally that being a part of that, it pays itself 10 times over from the discounts and just the local support you get to help grow your business. So AppletonREIA.com is where you can go, find the next meeting, or just do a web search in your market for a local real estate investor meetup, and you can go there. Otherwise, we look forward to hopefully meeting you if you're in our own market. But hopefully this gave you some tips, techniques, I can't talk.
Yeah, I knew you were going to go there again.
The threes, the three T's, I can't do it. Trips.
You want to take a trip, I can tell.
I do want to take
it's cold
my
today.
face hurts when I go outside. I don't like that.
It's cold today. Anytime we're below zero, I just want to go, ugh.
But the goal of the podcast today, obviously, is just to help you guys understand that even in any market, you can be survival. You can thrive, I should say, in any market. It really, at the bottom line, in a nutshell, if you want to take this podcast into like a quick 10-second, it's all in your brain, right?
Mindset.
How you look at it. There's opportunities abound. So until we talk next time, you have been listening to the Appleton REIA podcast, in which we never have any fun.
Never.
We never keep it real. We never have dogs barking in the background. Our phones never go off. We're real people. All right? Have yourself a good one. I'm Dan. She's Jackie. See ya.
See ya.
You've been listening to the Appleton REIA podcast. For more information and other episodes, visit us at AppletonREIA.com.